Hi, everyone. It's Allison from Early Bird Wellness. Hope everyone's doing fabulous today. Today, I have joining with me Molly, and she is here to share her client success story with everyone, which I'm really excited to share with you. How's it going, Molly?
It's a great day today. Thank you.
It's beautiful here as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. And let me ask you a few questions. What kind of situation were you in when we first started working together?
When I first heard about you, you were working with a couple of friends of mine, and at the time I spent most of my life morbidly obese, and I've been at maintenance weight for the past 7 years or so. And from my perspective, it's the best health I've ever been in. So I wasn't really looking for, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Is kind of how I felt. So I probably wouldn't have normally looked for your services. However, this very structured program I belong to in a 12-step group required that I have a food plan set up by a professional. And so you'd come recommended to me by these friends. And so when I came to you, I think our first meeting was I told you exactly what I wanted, which was about this big, and what you had to offer me was kind of like this big. And so as you had me do the questionnaires, blood tests, different tests, and my symptoms, which I thought were just a part of who I was. Some of the things that were common for me was I lost my voice at least 3 times a year, and a daily, when it came to allergies, it was probably, um, I didn't really have an allergy season. It was a constant sort of drainage for me. And then 3 times a year would rob me of my voice. One time I lost my voice for a full month. And I was curious about that. As far as elimination, constipation has been a huge thing for me for most of my life, and I figured that was just due to for compulsive overeating all those years. I figured I just damaged my gut, and that was the end of that, and didn't really expect anything to be better. I struggled to get 4 hours of sleep a night, and on a really good night, I might get 6, but it was mostly sleep deprivation. I ran on fumes. I ran on energy, anxiety. Those were things that were just a part of how I ran. And so you listened to all that and you matched it up. Oh, I guess where we started. I guess let's put it there. And when we go on to the next one, because that's basically what I came to you with was I'm fine. Give me a food plan. I'm done. And then you invited me to consider changing things, taking supplements, and that maybe these other things could be effective. So
Yeah, and I think that's so true for so many people, that it becomes their norm. So they're just like, well, that's just who I am. That's just normal for me. Especially like a lot of what you shared, like the not sleeping, not having the proper energy, not having the proper bowel movements. So many people are so unaware of even that piece, right? Like how that really impacts the body, because now that's like a huge elimination detoxification elimination piece. And if that's not functioning, then you can imagine what's bioaccumulating in the body, which causes this whole cascade of effects, right? I see that frequently. That's why I really started putting that focus on the gut health and inflammation and brain health, because I really believe that those three markers are really key piece, especially for us to function properly, especially as we move into aging as well, right? So what concerns did you have about working with me at the beginning?
well, I'm sure you'll remember, but we'll say to for our listening audience that upon our first meeting, and I'm sorry I left my phone on and didn't realize it. There we go. Okay. Um, I asked you if you would be willing to work with me if I was not willing to take supplements. And your response was that you didn't feel like you could do for me what you were able to do without that. And so 3 years later is when I was willing and ready because of what I'd seen in my friends, because of what I'd seen in others. And it's a long story why I was so dead set against supplements, but that's gone. And so my first concern was that you and I might not be able to meet on our objectives. That you would have one idea of what you wanted me to do, and I would have another idea of what I wanted to do, and there would be friction and it wouldn't be a good fit. There was some concern for me that that I wasn't able to use our insurance and paying for the fees. I was also somewhat concerned that just what if I failed, and how would you respond if I wasn't willing to do the way you would like it to go? So those were the main concerns, and I don't know, do you want me to address what happened to those concerns, or is that for another question?
Whatever you feel comfortable with. Sure.
Yeah, well, let me say, so for the first one about us, a meeting of the minds, you really listened. You really listened, and you very, very succinctly and clearly put forward what your belief was in your knowledge base. And then I could tell you how close I would come to it. And you always accepted where I was, and you said, okay, let's start there and then see, how you can come. As far as the money and the insurance, the money showed up. We had what we needed. I feel, you've never put forward a spiritual or God-based sort of a thing. You're very open that way, and I feel like I could be as religious or spiritual as I wanted to be, and you were just fine with that. And I felt like it was a faith thing. I was supposed to work with you and get the help that I needed, and the money was there for that. And so I feel really good about that. And in the end, you just always celebrated my successes, even if it wasn't the one I know you wanted me to have, let's say, or that I couldn't go as far as the end. You just celebrated with me how far I could go and just honored that. You took much more than my medical history. You also dug into my trauma background, reasons why I would say, "Ooh, I can go this far. I'm done. That's all I can do. The only discomfort I can handle, that whatever." And you said, and I felt like you treated it as sacred instead of something that you had to push against, which just made me a little more willing to try a little more. So all of those things turned out not to be concerns very quickly.
I can say you have done an amazing journey. I mean, from where I think you originally thought that you would be to where you actually went is totally different than what we talked about at the very beginning. And your successes, right, have come from that. And it's really important to meet people where they're at, right? Because with every little change, makes big changes for someone's health. And once they start to gain that confidence, then it's like then making that next step gets easier and easier and easier, because when you see the results of what you're getting back, right? Because I always say to people, like, your success is your success. You earned it, you did the work, you had the dedication. My job is to be the educator. My job is to educate you and give you the choices, but ultimately it's always your choice, your direction, right? So, I mean, that's why I celebrated all your successes, because you clearly earned them, and we don't get enough celebration for what we do in our lives, right? That's like we always joke around about giving ourselves our own high fives, right? Because we don't. And so it's important to have somebody who's on your team that says, hey, I can recognize that that might not be perfect, but does it have to be perfect? If you're getting the results that you want from it, hey, let's go for that, right? I mean, that's how I see it. What were one or two things that you received from me working with me that really worked for you?
The very first thing was how quickly you would respond, how accessible you were. And you could tell when I was afraid. Let's say that I had something come up that I didn't expect, or there was some discomfort with some, I want to say, process that my body was going through. And you could hear my fear and comfort me through it. And that gave me so much, you gave me a really clear idea of this is what you can expect. And so then when it would happen, then that fear went away, the anxiety went away, and I could go on with the thing. Having various financial plans and different things that I could choose, and you would tailor it to what I could do and what I could afford and what I needed. Those were really some huge things, teaching me about best practices while also accepting, again, where I was at, teaching me things like, I felt like you and I had this journey, and there were some things very specific to me, and then there were so many other things that you just were just value added, like how to cook things for best nutrition, how to store things, how to use things well. Just exactly the test. My goodness, when the test would come back, I've never had a doctor, any health professional, go over blood work, etc., urinalysis, etc., telling me what it really meant, and then to take one at the end to show me the difference between where I started and where it ended up, and what that meant, and why I was feeling the way I did now. So specifically working with you, those were the things that were really vital for me.
I can see that.
Yeah.
So what were some of your biggest successes that you had?
I think in the year and a half, I'm not even sure how close we're coming up on 2 years, but since we started, I have not lost my voice once. I do not have the constant drainage down my throat. You had found a bacterial infection in my gut that's probably been there for who knows how many decades. And we went through a process to eradicate that. That was really doable. I won't say that it was comfortable all the time and fun, but you prepared me for that. And it was slow enough. And anytime it was a little too much, you could teach me how to back off and how to come back to it, as I could. Bowel movements are now daily without any struggle on my part. I regularly exercise, which before, I was spending my energy on just trying to get the regular stuff done. I really couldn't see spending more on exercise, but that's added a lot to my life. The sleep, I struggled for 4 hours. Now it's a solid 6, and I have times where it's 8. And but somewhere between 6 and 7 is my normal, instead of 4 and 5, which I consider wow. So if I get a 6-hour night, and if I take a 20-minute nap in the day, my dependence upon caffeine is just, now every once in a while I still like, a diet soda still, but it's not what I depend on. All right. I've had to learn to live a little differently because my constant level of anxiety isn't there. And frankly, I depended on that to get a lot of things done. And so I have had to learn how to adjust to a more peaceful life, which it's a struggle adjusting. It's a struggle to become more peaceful. But you know what? When you've lived in high trauma drama, and when you've lived with anxiety being your motivator, it has been an adjustment. But that's still a good adjustment. That's why I can sleep more. So I really couldn't be more thrilled. Worth every penny, worth every effort. I'm really glad that I was brought to you. Truthfully.
Yes, I'm really glad that the universe brought us together as well. You have been amazing client for me to work with. Your successes have been unbelievable. I just really loved watching your whole journey and your dedication to yourself. I think just like you said, like we talked before, but you were not ready for the journey. And then you approached me again when you thought you were ready to do it. And you know that that's like one of my key pieces. Like I will not take somebody into my program unless they can make the commitment to themselves and that they're ready to put themselves first, right? Because by working with me that I dive in deep with my clients and I will do whatever it takes to try to get them to that other side. And I need them to be as dedicated, right? And there's a saying that I say to myself quite often which is, I can't want it more than you. because it's not my health at stake, right? Like I can't want your wellness plan more than you want it. So if you can't step up for you, then I can't step up for you. And when you came back around and you were like, okay, I'm ready, let's do this. You were ready and you went into it with such a great mindset. Like you just had such a beautiful mindset about your journey. Even when you were struggling at times, it was still beautiful. You were very honest. You were honest with yourself. You were honest with me, which makes it so much easier for me to work with a client when I'm getting that honest feedback from them and really like someone having that ability to communicate, like, this is where I am, help me, right? And so then I can make a decision on like education or slow it down or what needs to happen so that I can meet them where they are so that they don't get derailed by whatever that situation is. And that honesty that came from you made those pieces so easy for me. And I can't tell you what an honor it was for me to work with you, Molly.
Thank you so much. Well, this says that my device is going to overheat in 20 seconds. So,
oh my goodness. Well, we're going to wrap it up then for sure. But thank you so much for getting on with me today and sharing your story.